Namaskar and welcome to Sunset Television. I am Vishal Dahiya and you're watching our show Perspective, where we bring you detailed analysis of key national and international issues as well. Today we're going to talk about the second part of the budget session of Parliament, which will resume from 13th of March after a month-long break during which the standing committees scrutinize the budget proposals of the respective ministries. Now, several important legislations will be taken up during this session, which will conclude on 6th of April. The first half of the budget session had started on 31st of January with President Draupadi Murmu's first address to the joint sitting of both the houses, which was followed by the presentation of a union budget by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, and then discussion on these two items. Now, the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha had utilized 82% and 63% respectively of its allotted time in the first half of the budget session. Both presiding officers, Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla and Rajya Sabha Chairman Jagdeep Dhankar, have expressed their concern on several occasions on the issue of disruption of the House proceedings. So today we will take a close look at what is lined up for the second half of the budget session. What is it that we can expect? What is on the agenda of the government and the opposition? And for more on this, we're joined by a distinguished panel of experts. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with Mr. Jagannath Sarkar is joining us. He is BJP's Member of Parliament in Lok Sabha. We also have with us Mr. Chakshu Roy, Head of the Outreach with PRS Legislative, and Mr. Sandeep Fukan, Senior Journalist who covers Parliament, is also joining us. Welcome, all of you gentlemen, to Sunset Television. I'll begin with you, Mr. Sarkar, and let's first start by identifying what is the agenda of the government for this part of the budget session.
हमारा देश का अंतर जो है पिछले वर्ग है उनका डेवलप के लिए जो करना चाहिए वो कर रहा है। जहां कर लगाना चाहिए वो लगा दे रहा है। वो किसी का ऊपर वोट के आधार पर हमारा पॉलिटिक्स नहीं है। ये बजट भी वोट के ऊपर निर्भर करके नहीं किया। हमारा हिंदुस्तान का जो इकोनॉमिक डेवलप हो रहा है वो अभी इसके ऊपर सबके विकास के लिए जो जो करना चाहिए वो भी मोदी जी किया। हर सेक्टर, पब्लिक सेक्टर में जहां पिछले वर्ग है उनका हित में जो काम करना चाहिए उसी पे बजट का रुपया बढ़ा दिया। देखिए, सबसे जो बड़ा मुद्दा है ना, वो जो नौकरी करने वाला वो टैक्स का जो छुटकारी लगा दिया 7 लाख तक, ये एक महत्वपूर्ण। देखिए, हमारा हिंदुस्तान में 60 ईयर कांग्रेस ने राज किया, लेकिन कितने छोड़ा? वो 2.5 लाख तक वो बजट छोड़ा नौकरी करने वाला आदमी। अभी क्या हुआ? वो 7 लाख तक वो टैक्स के छुटकारी में लग गया। तो इसलिए ये तो सोचने के बाद है, ये सबसे बड़ा मुद्दा है जो क्या होता है, हमारा इकोनॉमिकली एस्टेब्लिशमेंट हुआ है। वो इसलिए ये हिम्मत देखा है सारी सेक्टर, रेलवे के बारे में इतना रुपया लगा। तो जहां डेवलप के लिए करना चाहिए वहां डेवलप हो रहा है। नया नया रेल बन रहा है, लाइन भी बन रहा है, स्टेशन भी डेवलप हो रहा है। सारे हिंदुस्तान में रेल का चेहरा भी बन आ रहा है। तो इसलिए वो जहां भर्तुकी देना चाहिए पिछले वर्ग के खाते में वहां देना चाहिए, जिसको मिलना चाहिए वो मिला रहा है। इसलिए जितने दिन जा रहा है वो हमारा संगठन का ताकत बढ़ रहा है। जहां चुनाव हो रहा है उस खुद नागालैंड जहां देश के खिलाफ था वो हिंदुस्तान में नहीं रहेगा, वो भी आज शामिल हो गया। हमारा हिंदुस्तान मोदी जी का डेवलपमेंट शामिल होने के लिए वो इतना आज वोटिंग हो अच्छा तरह से वहां हमारा राज आ गया। इसलिए जितने दिन जा रहा है इकोनॉमिकली सफलता, स्वास्थ्य के लिए देखिए सबके लिए जो वो आयुष्मान भारत का प्रकल्प वहां भी ज्यादा खर्चा बढ़ाया। वो जहां होना चाहिए आयुष्मान भारत स्वास्थ्य के लिए नया नया बहुत एम्स बन गया। वो कितने साल में कितने हुआ? आज अभी मोदी राज में कितने एम्स बढ़ा? वो सारी हिंदुस्तान का चेहरा स्वास्थ्य खाते में नया आ रहा है। नया जो उद्योग है वो शिक्षा खाते में शिक्षा खाते में भी बजट बढ़ा दिया।
Let me bring in, Chakshu here as well. We seem to have lost the connection there with Mr. Sarkar. We'll try and connect again. But Chakshu, as Mr. Sarkar was pointing out, various priorities of the government, what the government has done as far as the union budget is concerned. When we look at the, the larger picture, and specifically when we're talking about the second half of the budget session, what, according to you, is going to be high on the priority as far as government's legislative agenda is concerned? Of course, there will be, budget proposals which will be again looked into with a deeper discussion and comments coming in from both sides.
I think second half of the budget session has two distinct halves. The first half is the budget presentation and discussion on the general budget. But the important aspect of the first half of the budget session, as you pointed out, was that the president addresses MPs of both houses of parliament. And then there is a discussion on the president's address, and a vote of thanks is then sent to the president. Then there is an interval, about roughly a 3-week interval, where again, as you pointed out, the demand for grants of each of the ministries is scrutinized by different standing committees. The second half of the budget session is where detailed discussions will start happening on the individual demand of grants for ministries. So, for example, Lok Sabha, which is the directly elected house, has picked up a few ministries, and it will be discussing what are the budgetary requirements of these ministries. Rajya Sabha, which does not discuss the budget as such, will be discussing something called the working of the ministries. So in the first few days of the second half of the budget session, what we will see is that there is going to be a discussion on the demand for grants of the different ministries, and then the passage of the finance bill. So this is what the first week and a half will play out as, if everything goes to plan. And it is only then that the legislative agenda that the government has for the budget session, which is quite extensive, that will then get picked up.
Okay. Sandeep, you've been keeping a very close watch on the developments in the parliament. Now, it's not just about the legislative agenda, but it's also about what's on the agenda of the opposition parties, because, they also have their own issues which are listed by them before the session begins, issues which are of real importance to them, which they want to, bring to the show there. So, what, according to you, is likely to be the scenario out there?
Well, Vishal, you're right. Opposition will have their own agenda. They raise their own issues. But the immediate issue that I can think of that the opposition is bound to raise are the raids that have happened. In Deputy Chief Minister of Bihar, Tejaswi Yadav's house, and then earlier the ED officials had gone and visited former Chief Minister of Bihar, Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav. So those raids have happened. Then today, the Enforcement Directorate is questioning K. Kavita, of the Bharatiya Rashtra Samiti, or formerly Telangana Rashtra Samiti. She is a leader and daughter of the Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao. So the opposition has been talking about what they call as the misuse of central agencies against opposition leaders. Today, in fact, I have seen a very strong statement coming out of Manoj Jha, Rajya Sabha member of the Rashtriya Janata Dal. So quite clearly, they will raise that issue because it's, Parliament begins 2 days from now, and the raids and the questioning have happened in the past 2-3 days. In fact, one round of questioning is happening today. So the other issue that I can think of where there seems to be a division within the opposition is that of the Hindenburg report and the fallout with regard to the Adani Group. The Congress has been quite persistent in demanding a joint parliamentary committee. That is something that has already been rejected. Mr. Rahul Gandhi raised that issue during his speech in that motion of thanks to President's address. Large parts of it have been expunged. So Congress is still insisting with their demand of joint parliamentary committee. But as I understand, the Trinamool Congress is the first opposition party to break away in terms of that demand, and they said that court-monitored committee is good enough.
Okay.
So we'll have to see how that plays out. With Trinamool being out of the that framework, will the Congress manage to gather other political parties around itself and then again raise that issue on the floor of the House? So these are some of the issues that come to the mind. Of course, the leader of the opposition in the Rajya Sabha and also the Congress president, Mr. Mallikarjun Kharge, will have a formal meeting with the opposition parties before proceedings start on Monday.
Okay. So we'll get a much more clear picture out there, as Sandeep is pointing out. But clearly, it looks like the opposition also has its own agenda in terms of the issues which it would want to raise. Not unanimity on all the issues out there, as Sandeep was referring to. But that brings us to another issue here, and I'd like to bring you in, Chakshu, here. When we look at the data also, that is the issue of disruption of the House proceedings, because when there is sort of a stalemate or sort of a persistence from the opposition on certain issues, then it leads to disruption in the House, and it also is reflected in the productivity. For example, in the first half of the budget session, while Lok Sabha could utilize just 82%, for Rajya Sabha, it was 63% of the allotted time which was utilized. And this is a picture which we've seen in the past few sessions as well. Of course, winter session was an exception for Rajya Sabha, where it was, if I'm not wrong, more than 100%.
Vishal, I think, there are two or three interlinked issues. Sandeep rightly pointed out as to what is going to be the opposition's focus during the session. And I think I personally believe that the responsibility of ensuring that Parliament functions fruitfully and to the best of its ability lies both with the Treasury and the opposition benches. After all, our members of Parliament are elected to lead our nation, and we can't really say that it's only the responsibility of one party or one side of the House. Having said that, the budget session is the longest session of the year. It is also an extremely crucial session for two reasons. One, because it kind of sets the tone and the tempo for legislative activity for the rest of the year. And the second, that this is the session which is the longest and where most of the work is going to get done. Now, the budget of the country now stands roughly at around 40 lakh crores. And Parliament is going to have a limited amount of time to discuss this budget and discuss as to whether the priority of the budget, how does Parliament see it? Do they see that the budget is being spent in the right direction? Now, when there's so little time available to scrutinize something so very important, and that too once a year, I think everybody should kind of get their heads together to see as to what is it that they can do and what is that negotiating space or that space for consensus, so that there is an orderly debate in the House. Now, my panelists might agree with me that for some sessions now, we have seen more debate happening out of Parliament and, members of Parliament putting their perspectives out of Parliament than on the floor of the House. So I think that is the equation that needs to change. There should be more debate within Parliament, and obviously there should be more debate outside. But Parliament, which is supposed to be the repository of our deliberatory of democracy, if debate does not happen there, then, it reflects poorly on how our institution is functioning.
Okay. Let me bring in Mr. Jagannath Sarkar here again as well. Mr. Sarkar, on the issue of ensuring smooth functioning of the House, which, figures which I was referring to, and as Chakshu was also pointing out, that it is the Parliament which is the right place for debate and discussion on issues which concern our democracy. Of course, debates outside the Parliament are also welcome, but when we're talking about the parliamentary proceedings, Mr. Sarkar, what is the government strategy to ensure that there is a smooth functioning of the House?
पहले तो देखिए, पार्लियामेंट जो कानून होता है देश के हित के लिए होना चाहिए. पॉलिटिकली दिशा से डिस्टर्ब करना ठीक नहीं है. वो पब्लिक सब सोचते हैं कि कुछ दिन में ऐसा चल रहा है जो विरोधी जो है हमारा गवर्नमेंट के खिलाफ हमेशा काम कर रहा है। जो अच्छे काम के लिए जो विरोध हो रहा है ये सही नहीं है। कोई बार देखा ये बजट सेशन में शुरू जो पहले हुआ था वो एक इशू लेकर अदानी अदानी और कोई चीज नहीं है, वो ये लेकर ही हल्ला मचा रहा है। कोई इशू छोड़कर एक अदानी अदानी लेकर पड़ा है, लेकिन बहुत पॉजिटिव ये चर्चा होने के जरूर है। देश के लिए कानून बनना चाहिए, जो जो चर्चा होना चाहिए बजट के लिए चर्चा, बजट के खिलाफ कोई बोलना कोई पॉइंट है तो आलोचना में शामिल होना चाहिए। ये तो तब तो हमारा जो लोकतंत्र अच्छा ढंग से प्रतिष्ठा होगा। तो ऐसा जो अभी कोई दिशा नहीं है जो हमारा गवर्नमेंट के खिलाफ काम कर रहा है, वो सब कानून छोड़ के पार्लियामेंट स्मूथली चलाना जो हेल्प चाहिए वो नहीं कर रहा है, इसलिए तो दिक्कत हो रहा है। लेकिन हमारा गवर्नमेंट का काम पब्लिक के लिए जो चर्चा होना चाहिए वो चर्चा में शामिल होकर सबको सम्मान देकर वो जो प्रोसीड्यूर है पालन करके वो कानून बनाना चाहिए। देश के आगे बढ़ाने के लिए जो करना चाहिए हेल्प मांग रहा है सभी के पास। जो खिलाफ है खिलाफ ही छोड़ दीजिए, आपका क्या पॉइंट है उसलिए चर्चा कीजिए। वो हम देश हित के लिए जो होना चाहिए सबको पास हमारा तरफ से ये मांग है। आप चर्चा में शामिल हुए, वो आपका जो पॉइंट है आप चर्चा कीजिए। देश को जो आगे बढ़ाने के लिए जो होना चाहिए वो भी आप मोशन आन सकते वो आपके जो सब्जेक्ट है वो चर्चा कर सकते बोल सकते। ये तो लोकतंत्र का ये अच्छा मुद्दा है, तब तो लोकतंत्र दोनों हित में होगा। इसीलिए मेरा सरकार पक्ष से वो तरफ से उनका मैं से आह्वान कर रहा हूँ अच्छे ढंग से वो लोकतंत्र का नियम पालन करके आप चर्चा में शामिल हो, पार्लियामेंट चलाने के लिए मौका दीजिए। वो सभी जो जिस पॉइंट है वो भाग लेकर वो चर्चा कीजिए, यही तो ठीक है।
Okay, Mr. Sarkar, what you're saying is something which has been pointed out time and again by the presiding officers of both houses as well. Sandeep, all of us have heard, both Rajya Sabha chairman and the Lok Sabha speaker time and again expressing their concern inside the house and outside the house as well on the issue of disruptions which cause, a loss of money and time both as far as parliamentary proceedings are concerned. Valuable time and of course, valuable money spent on, conducting those proceedings as well. And they've exhorted the members of parliament time and again as well to ensure that they ensure smooth functioning of the house. How do you, look at the forthcoming session, the kind of possibilities which we are looking at and, the way out to ensure that there is a smooth functioning?
Well, I'm sure, Vishal, that as Chakshu was pointing out, this budget session is not only the longest session, and it also sets the tone and tenor for the legislative agenda of the government, but it's also a session that has fixed timelines. So you will have to get your business done before the month of March ends or lapses so that the financial year can begin. From 1st of April, disbursements will have to happen. So the government needs to be empowered and the finance bill needs to be passed. So as things stand, what happens is that they pick a few ministries like, say, defense or agriculture or, some key ministries where there will be proper discussions. Opposition may actually move, cut motions if they or amendments if they want to make some changes. But then normally they will not get carried because the government has the strength in terms of numbers in the Lok Sabha. And it doesn't matter in the Rajya Sabha, when it comes to a money bill. So what happens is that discussions will happen for sure. I think what we need to really look out, because, and there is only specific, from 13th to 30th, and you just count the number of working days, and that's the time available to Parliament, to political parties, to government to actually get the finance bill, passed and endorsed. So, and then of course the other legislative agenda also needs to be put out. I mean, every ministry will put forward some of their pending bills. I have no doubt in my mind that eventually there will be discussion and, ministries or issues. I mean, those ministries that cannot be taken up for discussion will be put through a guillotine and they will get passed. But the question is that will we see disruptions in the immediate sort of soon after it begins on Monday?
Okay.
I think that's a call that the opposition will have to take. They are agitated, as I said, about a few things. Even the treasury have a few issues to, raise. For example, the BJP has been very vocal about Congress leader Rahul Gandhi's comments during his recent trip to United Kingdom. So some of the BJP members would like to raise that on the floor of the House, either through zero-hour mention or some other form. So I think both sides are prepared. I think challenge would be for the floor leaders and the government, Parliamentary Affairs Minister, as Mr. Sarkar just reached out, saying that the opposition can, is free to discuss anything on the floor of the House. I think that is a challenge. How do they get the opposition to the floor of the House? They can raise their issues, but let the House function. I think that will be the challenge before the government. As I said, immediately I can think of two issues. One, of course, the Congress has been persisting with the Adani, the Hindenburg report and the aftermath and the impact it has had on PSUs like LIC. I mean, these are giant, so on LIC, SBI, and the stock market, the stock market volatility. So these are issues that Congress is raising. Then I told you about the raids that have happened.
Indeed.
From RJD to BRS leaders. So I
Indeed.
think that is another issue that will come up. Arrest of Manish Sisodia.
So of course, those Sandeep, those issues which you are listing, of course, those are always in the opposition's, arsenal. Some of the other issue to try and corner the government on the floor of the House, seek answers as well, perhaps score political points as well. But then, coming to you, Chakshu, for the final response, before we bring this discussion to an end, you were also earlier referring to the merits of, having a structured debate or discussion inside the parliament. Now, if you could, give us a sort of a summary in terms of, because you analyze numbers, what is it that is at loss, or was it, what is it that we miss? If there are no structured debates, discussions, and the way forward, because Sandeep was referring to the fact that both sides will have to work in tandem, and the opposition, specifically if it's trying to raise an issue, will also have to ensure that the proceedings are not disrupted and they raise their own issue as well.
I think the panel has really laid out as to what should be the way forward for Parliament. If I can just take 5 seconds to say and sum that up. I think in any parliamentary democracy, the adage that goes is that the opposition will have its say and the government will have its way. Now, for that to happen, not only is the budget going to be important, there are several key legislation. And if Parliament is not able to, deliberate on these key legislations and they get passed without adequate debate, and then there is later in the implementation, certain lacunas are found, then that does not reflect well on the deliberative nature of Parliament. Now, if I, list out a few legislations, so for example, there is a legislation called Jan Vishwas Bill, which will decriminalize a number of offences. I think that would need to be debated quite extensively.
Okay.
There is an amendment to the Maintenance of Senior Citizens Law that has been pending for some time. That needs extensive debate. There are some bills with committees whose report will come. For example, the Competition Amendment Bill, which is expanding the scope of the Competition Tribunal, that is also there. So I think the loss for the nation when parliament does not function is not loss in monetary terms. I think it's a loss in terms of the fact as to what parliament could have achieved for the nation, but was not able to because there was parliament not function as it should have.
Okay, because of the lack of valuable inputs which will come in from, the members of parliament cutting across party lines if there is a structured debate and the suggestions coming in also. Thank you so much, Chakshu, for your views there. Mr. Sarkar as well for sharing your insights, and Sandeep also keeping a close watch on all the developments. We'll keep on coming back to you during the session. Thank you so much there. Once again, these were the aspects which all of us will watch out for during the forthcoming second half of the budget session of Parliament. There are various legislations, key legislations, which are pending before the Parliament, which will be taken up for discussion. And then there are the issues which the opposition would also like to raise. But then, again, the key to this particular session would be to ensure smooth functioning of the House with no disruptions. And we'll keep a close watch and keep on bringing you all the details. Till then, keep watching Sunset Television. Thank you.